Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 5 disappointing games of 2022. Now, every year, we play quite a few games, and sometimes this and the worst games of 2022 or of the year are combined, and that's usually just dependent on if I don't know, whatever we feel like doing that year. But like every year we do a top 10 best games, there are games that do not quite live up to our expectations or basically the hype that we surround ourselves with. They're just like, oh man, no, that's a shame. So here are at least 5 of those games that, while aren't quite terrible, at least this is the way I did it, like they're not terrible, but what I expected from them just didn't, they just didn't live up to that.
Me
So
too.
that's how they make it on this list.
Yeah, I would. These are games that, yeah, like you said, Class A B ones. I would probably play them again.
Mm-hmm.
They're not horrible. My
Yeah.
worst games, I probably won't ever touch.
Mm-hmm.
But the disappointing ones, I would play again. And
Yeah, for sure.
That they didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, all 5 of them are maybe my number 5. Like, it's actually kind of weird because my number 5 out of these is the one I probably would be more hesitant to play again. So you would think that would make it my number 1, but I kind of ranked it on how much I expected to be super good. Like, these are games that I was like, man, these are top 10 contenders, and then you play them and you're like, never mind.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay. Well, without further ado, my number 5 is an absolutely gorgeous looking game and produced extremely well. But at the end of the day, after multiple playthroughs, it was just kind of like, well, I don't really like how this actually, plays out, and I'm finding it really hard to even, get others to play it. So my number 5 is Merchants of the Dark Road by Elf Creek Games. And I mean, this theme is also really cool. I mean, the fact that you're a traveling caravan, gathering goods and resources to take to the various cities around the land. And whenever you go at night, you have to go at different paths, and depending on if you go the darker path, then it's going to cost more resources and might have some harsher consequences. But the first thing about this game, I mean, it looks, I think the layout and stuff is super cool. The number one thing about this game that absolutely pisses me off is their insert and the way that you store this game, where I had to do a whole video on just how to rebox the game. And that's just awful. Like, I just don't even know how they missed the mark on even coming up with a sheet. I mean, they technically give you one, but it's like, well, this is trash. So that's my number 1 issue with it, that it's like, I don't even want to unbox this or set it up. The second was that, I mean, at its core, it's a rondel game, and you're just kind of gathering generic pieces. Yeah, they basically threw everything they could into it, that it's not really cohesive. Like, it has like this polyomino thing where you're trying to fit, which, I mean, thematically kind of makes sense. You have to fit stuff into your caravan. But then you have to go to certain locations to even, buy some of it. And then the prices of those are random. And then your action economy is random with the way the dice work. Like, you have to roll them and you kind of push them up to do your actions. And then what was also kind of weird was whenever you were going out to go deliver, either goods or, like have, whatever the word is, like you're carrying people to like, escort them. Like,
Yes,
I'm trying to make it not sound horrible. I'm like, it's not what it's sounding like. Escort them. Whenever you decide to do that action, people can come with you. They can just be like, yeah, I'll come along, like other players. and you as the one leading it run all the risk. So it's like, because like you roll dice based off the outcome of whatever the card is, and you're the only one that really incurs that risk. So it's like, well, why wouldn't I always just go with you unless I needed to get goods? It's like, oh, where are you going? Oh, not the city I need to go to? Okay, I won't go then. But if they are, then it's like, yeah, man, I'll tag along. Yeah, lead the way. Yeah, you fall off the cliff, you get injured, and I'll just reap all the benefits. It's just a mess of a game. So, well, it looks really cool. I think the board layout's awesome. I think some of the things they have in the game are done, pretty well. That insert and just the whatever gameplay just isn't enough for me to come back and play it.
Yeah, and that dice mechanic was kind of confusing too until you
Right.
understood what was going on with it.
Yeah, exactly. So it needed to be more refined.
Yep. Shocking, a Kickstarter game that needed more playtesting and refinement.
Surprisingly, actually, 3 of these games are not Kickstarter. As far as I'm aware, at least my number one, I'm not 100% on,
Ooh.
but I know 2 of them are not.
I think maybe only one of mine are not Kickstarters, I believe.
Yeah.
We'll see when it gets down to
Your
it.
list, like that's more common. Like I'm actually surprised that some of mine aren't.
Yeah. All right. So my number 5 is a game. It straddled that line of 21 and 22. You got your Kickstarter copy of it like at the very, very end of the year, and we played it once.
Okay.
I've played it 2 or 3 times this year, so that's why I kind of leaned it into the 22 stuff. And it was a game that I just don't think I like this style of game necessarily, the boss battler theme.
Okay.
And that is Townsfolk.
Boo.
I know,
Boo.
and that's why it's on this list, because I definitely would play it again. I mean, it's not that I hate the game or anything. It's just I just haven't. I don't. Maybe it's just one of those things. I just haven't found the rhythm to it, like to get the.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you don't know when to do things the right way and all that stuff, you can. I mean, it's pretty tough game. I mean, when
Yeah.
we played that first one, that Scarecrow dude just beat the shit out of us and
That's true.
everything. But I played it a couple times since, and it just kind of still keeps hitting that. So maybe Boss Battlers just isn't my deal. I don't know. But like I said, it's awesome
Yeah.
production. Everything about it's cool. Like all the stuff, and then the minis are really neat looking, and all that stuff. I know they just they're going to come to Kickstarter for an expansion. I don't know if they've done it yet, but
Not yet. No.
but pretty much this one's just it's a cooperative boss battler, and you have a little layout, and it's like a skirmish type thing. And I think the thing I enjoy the most about this is when you like get your equipment, like go to the shops or whatever, that part of the game. And
the not part of the game.
well, right. I mean,
Like,
and that's the thing. Like I said, it's on this, and it's at 5 on this list because I know it's probably a good game. I haven't grokked the right way to play it yet. Maybe I've played it like 4 times at this point, and it's kind of hits the same way.
interesting.
But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a popular one, so I know I'm in the minority on this for sure. But
Yeah, I'm curious because I can't think of any reason why like you wouldn't like this, except if it is just a style game that you just don't like. You're
right,
like, hey, I mean, I played it 4 times, it's just not clicking.
because I really haven't
Okay.
done many boss battlers like with miniatures and this whole deal. Like I haven't done Kingdom Death Monster, and I haven't done a lot of the new ones that are coming out. I haven't done. I haven't played. That you've gotten and stuff. This is kind of a new thing for me, and I don't know. I'll play it again, and I'll try the other ones too. Just maybe if I try one of the other ones and it doesn't work too,
I
then I'll know
mean,
it's the style.
yeah, I mean, the only other kind of boss battler that I could even slightly think of, I mean, I consider Aeon's End a boss battler. You fight a boss.
Yeah, but that's like deck building. I mean,
No, I know. It's like,
it's without
it is different. But I mean, a boss battler really is one major enemy that everyone convenes to fight.
Yeah,
That has a reaction deck or that interacts with you, and then the other is okay. Now we get upgrades to
Right.
go fight a different boss.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this one is definitely random. Like maybe that's also it is I mean kind of all boss battlers are
Hmm.
to replicate that unexpectedness of fighting a massive enemy. But yeah, I mean technically the boss you fight is random, their reaction deck is random, how you hit is random, the items you can get are random. So for all intents and purposes, this is a game that also shouldn't work for me, but I really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
maybe that's it.
Maybe. Yeah. And I need to try other boss battlers too, miniatures
True.
based boss battlers, just to see if it's that style or not. But
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I got a bunch now.
yeah.
They're all in. Okay. Well, good deal. That's sad. That's sad that it's on this list, but it could be worse. It could be on the worst list.
Right. Exactly.
All right. My number 4 is from a company that I usually expect very good things from. Like everything that they've made has actually just been a slam dunk. And I saw this one being advertised at Gen Con this past year, and I wasn't really sold on the whenever because it's the designer isn't the typical designer, and I wasn't really sold on it then, but I was like, you know what, this is a company that I trust. I'll go ahead and give it a shot. And it's kind of whatever. So my number 4 is Nightfall. Red Raven Games being the company that I was talking about with Above and Below, Near and Far, Now or Never, Sleeping Gods. Um, I guess like not every game they make because I just thought of Islebound and
Right.
City of Iron
Yeah.
aren't super great. But this isn't even designed by Ryan Lockett. It's by T. Alex Davis, who I talked to at Gen Con. I guess it looks like the story campaign is by Ryan Lockett, which I haven't tried the campaign. I've just tried the co-op and the competitive. And this in this game, the competitive is a team versus team. So one team plays the knights, another team plays the demons, and every knight has like a special power and every demon has a special power, and they have different objectives. Basically, the knights are trying to survive a certain number of rounds, and the demons are trying to kill like the priests in the chapel or the monastery. And I found that like the problem with this is like kind of the rule book is not 100% clear. Oh, wait, that might be it at Gen Con. That's funny. So there are keywords and stuff that are just blatantly missed, or steps in an action or an attack that are blatantly missed. And in basically a team versus team thing where that stuff is very important, it kind of muddies the game down. There were many instances where we, after multiple playthroughs, just had to kind of guess on how abilities worked. Otherwise, there's like a demon that is unkillable if the wording of things is correct. Like the Goblin King, for example, if he's ever being attacked, because the knights can get a point if they kill a demon. And there's a Goblin demon that it's like, oh, if you're going to be attacked, you can actually swap the space with a goblin or with a minion on the map. And it's like, okay, is that before he takes damage or is that after? Because if it's before, we can never damage him because there's always goblins on the map. If it's after, then that's a little bit different. It kind of pushes him further away. So it was just kind of like little things like that just kind of muddied the team game. And again, I want to reiterate, this is not a horrible game. Like you can have a pretty decent time competitively. The abilities can be cool. You can, play pretty smart, but like there's also no interaction between teammates. Like it's not like, oh, you're being attacked. Okay, well let me play a card to like come in and save you. It's like it goes set turn order, like demon goes, knight goes, and it goes in like a zigzag pattern.
Right.
So it's like demon, knight, other demon, knight. And it
This
always goes in that order.
this was on Vassal's surprise games of 22.
He was so surprised that it was bad. No, well, yeah, I mean, again, like if someone were to be like, "Oh, I liked it," I'd be like, "Sure, yeah." I mean, I really don't see why you wouldn't. But for me, I think I was just kind of like expecting like something
Oh yeah.
great from Red
Yeah.
Raven, and it wasn't like amazing. And the co-op is really, you just go through the motions. It's so easy
I
to.
will. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say though. I'll tell you right now, the one thing that makes me not want to play this game are those stupid life trackers on the standees. That would kill it for me.
Yeah, it's whatever. Like they're there, they function. Those are the priests or whatever that the demons need to kill. And yeah, if you're like adjacent as a knight, you can take damage instead to protect them. Um, it's not like a garish game or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's serviceable. It was cheap. I think the theme is kind of neat, but I think overall, I think I'll just stick with the. Oh, I don't know if he has a name for his like campaign, like the Sleeping God series or the
Right.
Near and Far, Now or Never series. I'll just stick with those games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 4, Nightfall.
All right. Well, my number 4 is a game that was a Kickstarter from long ago that had a lot of issues, and then it got rebranded, not rebranded, but totally redone from the ground up. Finally, is starting to get to backers.
Okay.
Like mid to late this year, I played somebody else's copies of it because I didn't want to touch it. It's a CMON game, and that is Shooting Legends.
Oh, ooh,
Um,
interesting. I
yeah,
remember
this
you were
one.
excited for this one, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't back it. I pulled off of it, and I'm glad I did because just all the crap around it.
Okay.
Well, and it's funny because I just now noticed because they took because this was a Eric Lang game when it was initially kickstarted, and he's not even on it
Oh,
now
they took his name off.
because they totally like he redid it from the ground up. Um,
Interesting.
and the thing about this game is it. I think to get the full stuff out of this game, you're gonna need to play it a handful of times because it's got this whole um I guess you say campaign. It's like broken into sagas.
Okay.
And I've only played it twice, so I that's why it's on this list and not the worst list because I want to see how the changes go. But what's unique about this game is um it's Celtic, Nordic and Celtic mythology, and you're kind of going through
Okay.
as these heroes. But as you go, you're going through generations of heroes, and the board changes as the generations go. So if you look at this board,
Okay.
there are on the board there are actually sleeves built into it, and you will slide things underneath the sleeve so that
Okay.
the board changes. So when you fold up the board and everything, it stays in there.
Okay.
And so the world changes from generation to generation, and that's the part I need to see how it works a little bit more. That's why it's on this list because I didn't like the game a whole lot, but I'm just curious to see how that plays out the longer.
Yeah.
Because me and a couple of my friends, the one that has this, we're trying to force our way through it, even though none of us like it, just to kind of see, how it plays out.
Yeah.
But
Is it co-op?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So yeah, you just you just go through and run through this, and the world, like I said, the world changes and all that stuff, and it's an interesting thing. I don't necessarily like the art. I don't The board's kind of boring. The miniatures are so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can definitely. I'm curious to know what the game was like before they redid it. Because Eric Lang generally comes up with pretty decent stuff, and if they totally shut it down and rebuilt everything, I'm curious to know what it was like before.
Yeah,
I
he's
can't.
still technically credited on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It's
this is a mess. It's like there's 8 designers
right.
like on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 8 designers.
I'll,
So, and I guess there's no solo designer.
well, and
Four
right.
artists, 2 publishers. Like,
And
I
I'll
mean,
tell
you're
you.
just. Go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No,
you go.
sorry. I was
I
gonna
was,
say. Go ahead. It's your game. Go
I,
for
I
it.
was, I was just gonna say you can tell that because it's like they scrambled because this Kickstarter project made a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like feels like they just threw a bunch of crap in there really fast just to get it out to backers because backers paid for it. That's
Yep.
what it feels like to me. Um, Again, I want to finish it, or at least play a little bit more just to see how the generations and all that stuff plays out. But it just feels like a game that they just kind of shoved together just to get it out to backers
Yeah.
to save the
And
game.
with the designers, it feels like if you were to watch a movie and you're like, what the fuck is going on with this? And you realize there's been 8 writers, you're like, oh, well, that's why. There's no
Right.
cohesion. They're not working together. Like, it's like, okay, you write the first half of the first act, and you write the second half of the second act, and then, but you guys live in completely different countries.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have a translation mishap from the person who lives in Spain, and then we have this guy who's a fucking intern. Like, and I'm not saying, obviously, I haven't played this game. I was not interested in it at all. The only thing that you have mentioned that would make me be like, I'll give that a shot is I kind of like the idea of the sleeves being built in the board. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty smart way if you're gonna have ever changing like landscape or stuff. That's a pretty
And that's the main
easy
reason
way
I
of
want to keep playing it, because I just want to see how it plays out.
yeah.
Because I'm looking at the Kickstarter real quick to see how much, because they raised almost $1.5 million on this campaign.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. I don't
What did
know
it
where the money
fund?
went. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have anything that's really outstanding other
hmm
than
Well, it
putting
went towards
sleeves on the boards.
Simon's. Yeah, it went towards Simon's other Kickstarter projects that they
Yeah,
haven't
because
fulfilled.
so I don't know, but it's one of those I'm gonna begrudgingly keep playing just to see where it goes. But you know,
Yeah, got to get your money out of it.
it very easily could have been on my worst list.
Yeah, yeah, but if you had finished it, that probably might have pushed it over the edge, or maybe taken it out, depending on how it goes.
Yeah,
So, like, what's the gameplay like? Like, is it
it's
do
just
you
your
keep?
base. It's just your basic dudes on a map game. I mean,
Oh,
you're
okay,
going through and it's you know there's just nothing special about it.
I see.
There's nothing unique. There's nothing. Only unique things, like I've said, is how the board changes and it has the
Okay,
board sleeves. That's really it. There's little
gotcha.
objectives and stuff that you work on and stuff like that. But
Okay,
other than that, that's it.
I will probably steer clear. I have
Yes, I would.
15 other fucking campaign games to play that are way more interesting.
Yes.
All right. My number 3 is actually very disappointing that it's even on one, because this easily could have been on the best. But as I kept playing it, and I started this as a series on my channel, and I can't remember how many games we officially played before we eventually just called it quits because it was just becoming very tedious and frustrating to even set up to then play. And while like the initial like aspects and the reaction of this game are great, I was just kind of like getting over it. So my number 3 is Vagrant Song.
Interesting.
Again, when I had first played this game, like I was like, oh yeah, no, this is awesome. Like it's in that townsfolk tussle, Cuphead kind of 1920s cartoon art, and the theme is very cool where you're on this train battling haints, which are like spirits or whatever. Although the terminology makes this game a little bit more confusing than it actually it's like, well, it doesn't really help. It's like because whenever you're attacking someone, they don't have health. Like they gain like spirituality or something. That so
Mhm.
you increase their health to get them to a breaking point. Um, this is also a boss battler and one that I know a lot of people really like, but for me, it was like, okay, it's just a boss battle. Like that's all it is. Every scenario is just kind of like set up the same map, like with like instead of a cardboard box here, it's in a different spot. So it wasn't like really super creative in terms of like board layout. The Haints did act different, but like it just got so tedious. I feel like whenever you're playing, like you didn't really do anything a whole lot different. The only thing that was mainly different was your objectives that you had to do, but actually fighting the boss was still the same. And at the end of the day, it just came down to pure dice rolls. Like, okay, I'm going to commit my 3 actions to attack, and I missed. Okay, I guess it's your turn. And of course, there are some ways to mitigate, but like overall you have to kind of like weirdly figure out certain objectives to get more coins for the in between phase. You had to complete random objectives that you really didn't have any idea how to do. It was kind of like, oh, knock the hat off the enemy. How do I do that? It does. There's no mechanism saying how I can knock the hat off. I guess I'll just get lucky, or an event will pop up. And the most frustrating fucking thing about this game is a lot of it comes down to you reaching into the bindle or the bag of like tokens, and that token is like the size of a fucking nutsack. It's the tiniest goddamn thing. And you're like trying to, and it's cardboard token. So it's like Quacks of Quedlinburg, how people upgrade those
Yes.
because it's gross to grab cardboard tokens. Yeah, imagine if Quacks of Quedlinburg was like the bag was like this big. And you're just like you can only reach like 2 fingers in to like hopefully, and it's so like I hated that bindle, man. Like it was so frustrating because like that's how you got items, which mitigated die rolls or gave you some ability. So your hands were just in that thing all the time. So that was annoying. But yeah, the reason why it's higher up on the disappointment list again, I want to stress that disappointing and worse are 2 totally completely different things. I will have nothing good to say about the 5 worst. Here it's like, yeah, no, I mean, if someone were to be like, hey, we want a player like just to do the scenario, I'd pop in and play a scenario. But I don't like the fact that it was campaign driven with no real progression. That was my friend's complaint, was you never felt like you were getting stronger as the campaign went on. You just got maybe different items. So maybe kind of like what you were thinking with Towns. Or your favorite thing about Townsfolk Tussle of like getting a bunch of gear and like building up your character. Yeah, that's not really in this. So I can't imagine you would like this one either. But who knows? Maybe it's your number 2 game of the year or something. You're like, this one's amazing.
I haven't played this one.
Okay. But yeah, other than that, very, very cool theme. Like the writing was pretty well done, and I'd like to see more. Like I feel like this is a really cool theme or game that was, if it's in a more fleshed out setting, like if this was actually like a map or you actually traversed other places similar to other boss battlers I've played, I think that could be really cool. They have something here, but the overall gameplay is just not something I want to keep playing.
All right. Well, my number 3 is a game by a company that's already been mentioned so far. And
Steam Games?
No. I've come to the realization with this company, designer, all that stuff. There's one game that I like, possibly a second. I haven't played the really popular game of theirs yet.
I know which one this is now.
This one we played at your place. I think we recorded it.
We did.
Yes, but
how many points did you get? 0?
I don't know.
No, I know.
Something like that. But it was now or never. This one, because I didn't like Near and Far very well, even though I didn't try all the gameplay ways and stuff. I love Above and Below. That's still my favorite. I still to this day haven't played Sleeping Gods.
Oh my god.
I know. That's why I said there's one that I know I'll probably like that I haven't tried yet. But this one, again, I mean, it's decent, but it wasn't like, I was kind of had a lot of hope for this one because I'd heard, it's more of a adventure. You're building up your village again. You're doing all this stuff. It looked kind of cool.
It's not a race.
Right. It's all this different stuff. Story elements still. I figured maybe this was the one that would bring me back to that stuff. And like I said, it's just meh. I mean, we've played it. We played it there once, and I played it one other time and had kind of the exact same feeling on it. I think I liked the building of the village stuff was pretty cool. And everything. And to be honest with you, I remember there being one thing when we played it that first time that was my biggest complaint when we did the the discussion. I can't remember what the hell it was. It was something to do with the map. I can't remember, but um,
I
but
don't remember either. Yeah, I
it
don't
was
remember
something
what your
about
biggest
traveling.
gripe
It was
was.
something. It was something. I don't know. But anyway, it's
I thought that I thought it had something to do with the city building.
yeah.
Like I thought there was something about the city building that didn't quite work for you, but maybe
yeah. I
I don't
can't.
know. It's been a while since we
I,
played
I
it.
I like the asymmetric, characters that you get and stuff like that. That's kind of cool,
Hmm.
and how you can kind of get their abilities, and do upgrades and stuff like that and everything. But it just wasn't. It was just. I think I'm just stuck with Above and Below being my favorite, and then possibly Sleeping Gods. Because I haven't really
Yeah.
I haven't really cared for the other ones either that he's done. Um. So
Yeah,
you know.
this one it's not on any of my lists. It didn't make my best, didn't make my worst or disappointing. It was a contender for the best. I do like this one quite a bit. I think for me this is a culmination of Above and Below and Near and Far.
Hmm.
You know, clearly I think Sleeping Gods was finalized before this. Or they were designed around the same time because it has the major story elements of the different chapters and because your characters also have an individual story to tell.
Right. Right.
And then so it has the world exploration of moving from location to location that Near and Far had, but the city building and stuff that Above and Below had. So I'm not surprised that this is on this list for you because it has more Near and Far aspects than Above and Below. And yeah, like it's not as expansive as either one. Like it does a pretty good job of taking the major parts of both and combining into its one story. I think the Dice Tower guys were talking about the combat and they were talking about how the combat was amazing. And I'm like, I was trying to think back. I'm like, did I do combat wrong? Like I didn't think
Yeah.
it was like super great. It's not it's predeterministic. Like you can clearly see, oh, I can go take on that boss, or I have a chance to take on that
Right.
boss. Which maybe
Yeah.
that's why they liked it. It's very clean. You can be like, oh yeah, that boss over there is tough. I now have the strength to go beat him. So now I'm gonna go
Yeah.
beat him.
Yeah. So, it was just kind of a meh game for
Hmm.
me. I should
Yeah,
have known to go in with too much hope, but I didn't. I did. So that's why I'll
yeah.
still play it. I mean, I
I
don't hate it, but
Right, but here's the thing though. This game is long.
hmm
That's the other thing. It's like I would never touch this with more than two.
yeah. Because
Because
was it just two players, or did Kat join us when we
no,
played
yeah, it was
that?
just me and you.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
remember.
mean, like that, because we had tried it the first time, and then it was like, oh my god, and then played it again, and it was like, and it was still like 2 hours.
Hmm.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh dear God, no. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is still in my collection, but I have not played it since we had done the recording.
Yep.
So.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, so my number two is from a company that I don't believe exists anymore. And if they do, they are not doing a very good job running things because everything just seems like a mess over there. Because I'm pretty sure they have a bunch of games that haven't been delivered and no real updates on where they're coming from. Uh, this was a game that I believe that you had stepped away from because this is a Kickstarter, and I was kind of like enraptured around the theme for really regardless of who was doing it, but after playing it, I was kind of like fatigued by it, and yeah, I mean it's kind of a whatever game. So my number two is
Yes.
Hour of Need. The company in question is Blacklist Games. I know one of the brothers actually left. I don't know what to do. I don't know if he said what he was moving on to do, but
He's writing. He's like being an author, I think, is what I.
oh, okay. So yeah, so Adam and Bradley Sadler, one of those actually left Blacklist, and then I think Blacklist got absorbed by someone else, and they have their fingers in a bunch of different projects that hopefully come to fruition, but we'll see. In terms of this game, it follows their MDS system, the modular deck system of you take a bunch of various different decks of just whatever. You have a bunch of villain decks, you have a bunch of scenario decks, and you have a bunch of hero decks, and you just kind of pick and choose. And this has been done in their Brook City, it's been done in Alter Quest, it's been done in Street Masters. And actually the best one that I think it works for is Street Masters.
Yeah.
And so in this one, of course, you play your generic heroes, like of obviously not named characters because they can't get the IPs for them, but they're very much like, oh, this is clearly this superhero, this is clearly Batman or whatever. And you go around a board and trying to stop various schemes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. What you would expect from every other superhero game, except you just pick a different villain if you want. Yeah, this one was kind of actually I hated the fact that each expansion was like its own standalone. So you had a bunch of tokens. If you got all of it in, you had so many tokens of the same one. And because of that, there are actual rules for if you run out of certain tokens. Like there are like these gangster tokens or whatever, like these bystander tokens that like not thematically, mechanically have a set limit. Like, hey, if you run out of these, that's bad. But because you have so many from getting all the other expansions that you have to throw either most of it away or you just don't and hope you remember to set it up correctly. It was just also very long and very tedious because the boss had like two phases. It had its like scheme phase where you couldn't damage it. Like even if you went to the location where he was at, because he actively is moving on the map, then you can't damage him. You have to like foil his scheme before you can then beat him up. It's like, but I'm here. I can clearly see him doing that. Why can't I fight him? And then even fighting him is a slog because he just every time you do something, every time you attempt to foil a plan, if he's there, then he damages you, and you don't have the most health. So it was just like, oh god, every time you tried to do something cool, it was just another thing getting in the way.
Yeah.
And it just didn't come together. I didn't find the heroes to be super fun to play. I didn't find the card system to be super fun to play. It was kind of, I mean, you were just super slow about moving around the map unless you had very specific cards that let you kind of like teleport.
Mm-hmm.
The board just kind of, I get where they're coming from with kind of like the comic book style where it's like the 4 panels on this map. You have like, this is a bank heist. And so because of that, you play on this map with the bank. And so there's a vault, there's the security area. It does not come together well. Like this game alone kind of made me enjoy Alter Quest a lot more.
Well, and with superhero stuff, like I mean, I've never played this game. I'm glad I didn't jump in on it. Mainly because you and I both are so big into Marvel Champions.
Yeah.
We both have Freedom 5 coming here sometime in the next decade, you know. But you know, like this game to me seems like it could have just been a card game, like no miniatures or anything. Like they could have had a deck with, you know, that it almost seems like a Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah.
The way you talk about all the tokens and stuff, because that's what one of the reasons I didn't like Sentinels is because there were just so many damn tokens and different stuff and everything. And yeah, I'm not sad that I didn't back this one.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting it because of Blacklist, like really like Street Masters, really like Brook City. I even came around to Alter Quest quite a bit after playing it better. Like, or actually, that's not even my fault. The rule book of that is, I mean, who's going into writing? Hopefully not the one who wrote the rules for Alter Quest. God, I'm an asshole. But so I was like, okay, they can't go wrong with their MDS system. Yep. Yeah, they can. Again, like, and this one I remember seeing being sold almost immediately. Like everyone was kind of jumping ship off this. I have not seen anyone talk about it. And unfortunately, that's like, it's not the worst game. Again, Like the 5 I have are clearly like I'd rather play this multiple times over any of those. But I had high hopes, even though it was a super. I think at the time I was really into superheroes, and now I even have Marvel fatigue, like
Yeah,
from the shows and stuff. I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm not gonna hate on it, but I'm not really excited to do anything about it
yeah.
unless it's Marvel Champions. And that
Right.
game is like kind of like the penultimate, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
superhero game.
Indeed. All right. Well, my number two is a game that I never in a million years would have thought I would have had hype for or excitement to play because the theme is just not my thing. But I've had a handful of friends that have got the Kickstarter for it and just absolutely talked it up so much that we decided to play it. And I actually was excited. And then it just wasn't as good as what I thought. And it's a weird theme because it's Alice in Wonderland themed,
Oh wow,
and that is Wonderland 2.
wow.
Um,
Wow, yeah, this one that's so okay, before you talk,
yeah,
that
yeah,
is so interesting because this is on everyone's jerk off list and they had talked about it so much that I was even looking around like, man, did I miss out? Like
and
cuz
maybe I mean, if you could find it and try to play it, go for it. I mean, because there
yeah.
it is. I can tell there's a good game behind it. That's why. I mean, it's just it's going to take a lot. It has to be a great game for me to get over the theme. Like, that's what because
Mhm.
pretty much you're taking it it turns into you're gathering for a war and then you have a war, I mean, that's what, so you're taking on a leader, which your leaders are going to be like Alice or the Mad Hatter
Mhm.
or the Cheshire Cat, Red Queen, stuff like that. And you are going around doing all this stuff like building towers, you're upgrading your leader, you're gathering forces, doing all this stuff. And I know I'm simplifying the stuff because there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
This game is probably the biggest table hog that I've seen in any
Oh wow.
2022 game, and
Okay.
that's even saying more than Burn Cycle, because
Oh, okay.
so this takes up a lot of space for what it is. And then once the tea party is over, the tea party where everybody has to play nice, then that's when
Yeah.
you get ready for war, and then that's when the battle
Okay.
stuff starts. And it just I don't know, it just I couldn't disconnect the Alice in Wonderland crap with turning into a war game.
Yeah.
It was just kind of weird. I can
I mean,
see
that's
why
the ultimate
people like
reason.
it.
Yeah.
You um
That's the ultimate reason why I stayed away from it was because I was like, I could not care less about Alice in Wonderland. So I don't care. I don't care what kind of game you have. Like,
right.
I'm not interested.
Well, because and it goes over and over too. That's the thing. It's not just the entire first half of the game is building up all that stuff, the Tea Party, and then
Hmm.
you go to war. It's you do all the battles after the Tea Party, and then a truce is called, and you go back to the Tea Party again and do all that stuff over again,
Oh, okay.
and plot for your next fight. And then after the Tea Party's over, you go back and fight again.
Okay.
So it's like I don't know. It's what it is. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that like this game, and the art and the layout when it's on the board, it's all colorful and pretty and looks
Yeah,
really
what's it
neat.
look like?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hit the button. But it's just
Oh, that's the standee version. That's
I know.
trash. No.
But but yeah, it's I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said,
Hmm.
it the box cover is really cool. I like the look of the box cover
Yeah.
and everything, but it
Yeah,
just
the overall art I could get behind. Um, I kind of want to read the book, the Alice, because I've heard that that's like way more kind of psychotic. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like the character sheets and they look kind of like extensive with like abilities that everyone has.
Well,
And like,
and it yeah, there's a good game behind it, I think. Um, it's just it's almost like they put too much into it though.
hmm.
Like this should be I'm not saying it's a complex game. I don't even know what the complex. They give it a 2.95. So they're saying it's not that complex. So that's about right.
Okay.
But there's so much crap on the board that like all over the damn place.
Hmm.
I mean, for a game of this weight and this style, I don't know how they've managed to take up so much space. I mean, it's crazy
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
space it takes up.
I'm looking at a picture of it now. Yeah. It's filling up the table. I mean, with all the minis and cards off the side and the chips.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So it's a thing. Like I said,
okay.
I mean, if it's your thing, go for it. But but it just wasn't my jam. And again, like I
Gotcha.
said, I would play it again. It's on this list. I would play it if somebody was like, "Oh, can we play that?" I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not gonna have a
Yeah.
great time, but I'll play it.
I think even then it's like I have such a disinterest in this theme in this world that like even if someone were to like talk it up, I think it's also so much there's so much hype that I'm like kind of like hesitant like I don't know. Like I really for some reason something about this game particularly interest in even trying it. Especially going out of my way to buy it. It's like I know a lot of people have talked it up, like both online and on like or on like our board game groups and for um YouTube. But I'm just like,
Hmm.
all right, great. Glad
Yeah,
you liked it. I'll play
yeah.
my other 30 games that I have.
I think what they could have done that would have made this more appealing to me is if they would have went really like dark and not made it
Yeah.
cutesy. Like if they would have had like, Alice standing there with a severed head and or something like that, it would have been,
Almost
skunk.
like that weird you remember Winter Tales?
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
that Tim Burton-esque kind of
Yeah.
theme. Yeah, I would have been much more. Yeah, for some reason I'd be much more involved in that if it was like a very heavy, dark
Well,
twist on the Alice
because
in
you're going to
Wonderland theme.
war, it's like
Yeah,
it's like you can't have cutesy and then have we're gonna have a war. It's like no,
yeah.
we're gonna
Let's
go
do our
play
tea
patty cake.
party. All right, now that we've all drank tea and have had a maddening time, time to cut your throat. It's like, wait, what? We just had
Yeah.
tea together.
So anyway, yep, that's my number two.
All right. My number one most disappointing game of 2022, again, is not a bad game, uh, but one that I have no interest in ever touching again. After playing it multiple times at various player counts, I think this is almost kind of like a one and done game, and it's a real shame because once again, this is from a company that I highly respect. One of their games. And I met the designer of this at Gen Con. Very nice guy. He was awesome. He even like was promoting this game, obviously as the designer. But he's like, "Hey, come back tomorrow because we're getting this game in and snag a copy." And I'm like, "All right, cool. I'll do that." So my number one game is Ahoy. This is from Leader Games, and I guess I respect two of their games because I really like Fort and I love Root. And the designer described it as a combination of both. I'm not really seeing the Fort aspect. Oh, I think it's just he's the designer of Fort, and it is a lot more similar to Root in the asymmetrical player factions. However, in terms of asymmetry, it's not like everyone plays something completely different. Two people play something completely different. Actually, there's three total factions, but if you're playing a four-player game, two people play like the mollusks, one person plays the shark, and another person plays the smuggler. So the mollusk, or there's the smuggler, the shark faction, and I'm drawing a blank on the fourth one because basically they're another area control kind of thing. The Bluefin Squadron Mollusk Union and wow, and whatever. I can't find it. But anyway, basically how this game plays is two factions are vying for control of various islands in this game. So one is the sharks, they're the more aggressive kind of style. The others are the mollusks that are the defensive style. And then you have the smugglers who are kind of this weird in between kind of thing. Like they want both of those sides to do well because then they profit. The problem that I have with this game is it is kind of a war game. Like, it's like for me to go into to take control of an island, I have to fight you. If you have units on the field, like the mollusks have those little chips, those are basically add to the strength of trying to take over that island. I have to, bombard them. I have to get rid of them. But the smuggler faction is just kind of in the way, and there's no negotiation for him to swing one way or the other. So it's not like I can like be like, hey, dude, help me out, give me this island, because he has no real reason to. It's like, well, why would I do that? You can't give me anything in return. I can just, whatever you can offer, I can just go do myself, and it doesn't cost me anything. What I really didn't like about this game was the fact that, yeah, technically the three factions do play different. They almost play the same every single time. And there are some crew cards that you can get that are clearly designed. Anyone can get them, but they're clearly designed for a very particular faction to get them. Like, one of them is just, oh, remove units from the field. And it's like, okay, that's clearly meant for the shark faction, because I can just go there, drop a die on that, and remove all the buildup of mollusks that you've put on the island. It's like, all right, cool. No one else would ever get that except
Right.
to make sure the shark person wouldn't get it. And there's another card that's similar for the mollusk faction to remove sharks from the map. Yeah, so like the shark faction has more dice to play with, so they're almost always going last, which is not, at least they always get one extra turn. The mollusks have like a secret deck of cards that they can get some extra ships on the field, and some of them are just, oh man. I think there was one point in the run through. Actually, no, we did a review for this one. We were gonna do a run through, but I think my camera messed up. So I was like, I don't want to play this again. I'm done. So we just did a review. But there was a card he had that was like, I was doing all this build up to try and take over this one island to get me points, and he had a card in his hand that he forgot to play, but it was basically just like a cancel, like a nope, none of that happens. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You can just top deck a fucking card like that? And then the smuggler, like I said, he just needs islands to be revealed to get certain icons, because then he can just take crew cards and kind of like slot them as goods.
Hmm.
It's just kind of the reason why this is on the number one disappointing is because it was explained to me as Root. And I'm realizing that Root is such a masterpiece game that it's like, why would I play this over Root? I mean, this game isn't as, I mean, complex or expansive, and it's not as conflict heavy. Like, Root is a war game after all. But I don't know, like Root just has that perfect balance of aggression and negotiation and asymmetry, that it just has constant replayability, and this one just felt kind of stagnant after multiple playthroughs. So I don't know. The designer's super nice though.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't get a chance to play this last week at my little game day we had, because somebody brought it. We ended up not playing it, so
Oh really?
did not
Who
waste the
was
time.
okay? So this designer was not the designer of who the fuck did Fort? I thought it was him. Maybe not. Nope. I thought he was a designer of Fort, but guess not. Maybe he just, I don't know how
Has the
Fort
same
got brought
art,
into it.
maybe.
Yeah, they all have that kind of like that same art. I could have sworn the guy said it was like a combination of Fort and Root, but maybe the smuggler cards, or not the smuggler cards, maybe the crew cards he's talking about with Fort, like how they're, because in Fort you have like a row that you could draft to have to go into your
Right.
fort. Maybe that's what he was talking about. But yeah, I could see this kind of being one of those games that like people play and they're like, oh yeah, this is good, but then they play it again, they're like, oh, it's the same. Like, because there is no real like variety with the factions. Again, out of the four, and it only plays up to four, and there's only four factions, two of them play the exact same. So it's like playing Root with
Right.
two It's like playing Root with the cats, the Eerie, and then two vagabonds. That would just be
Yeah.
a miserable time. Is kind of how I imagine it. So yeah, overall, I was just kind of let down by this one. Not horrible. Like, what did I give it? What did I give it? Yeah, I gave it a 7. Like, I think all these games I gave around 7s, 6 or 7s. But based off of like rankings and stuff like that, it's also more centered around the hype that we have around them. So yeah, that's my number 1. Ahoy.
Good deal. Well, my number 1 is crossover. It's probably pretty easy to guess since there's only 5 games that we've talked about.
It would depend on which one I think that you've played. You haven't played Vagrant. Oh, I guess Merchants of the Dark Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was like,
See, I had bought this and I never played my copy after seeing your
slog of a fucking.
But then
reboxing.
A guy here in town had it, and we was sitting there one day. So we sat down and played it a couple times in a row, back to back, which was brutal. Anyway, but
like, man, I see you want to get your money out of it. Like,
I guess so, because I went into it knowing it was what the issues, and then I told him about how difficult it was to get it repacked back up. So he goes, "You want to just play it another time while it's out?" And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So and then I just left.
All right, that's fair.
I left it on the table. So
yeah, with that explanation, yeah, I would probably play it multiple times in a row too.
Yeah. So anyway, this one is for all the same reasons you said. I mean, I had a lot of hope for this one. Like it was one that at the time I didn't back it on Kickstarter, but then I got really hyped for it. I was like, man, this sounds awesome. You're selling shit and all this stuff, and it has all this cool stuff, the rondelles, and it just wasn't anything. I mean, the production was cool. I had a little bit of issues with the Dark Road part, like because it wasn't like lined out super well, like the trail. I mean, I know they had the
on the far right.
Yeah. But the dice mechanic was confusing as hell, knowing all that crap, and it's just.
Well, it's also 100% random.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like when you need to go to certain locations, you need to be able to move based off the die result, and like it's improbable, but there is a chance you can always roll super low, so you can never get where you need to.
Yeah, and it was just a big fail. And again, it's on this list, my number 1, because it's my most disappointing, even though I would still play it again if it was all out and set up when I got there, just if I was teaching it to somebody or something like that, but no.
I think there's something to be said about also being the one to spend the money on it. Like there's that financial factor that it's either you have that almost sunk cost fallacy where people like have to like something because they paid a lot of money for it.
Right.
It's like, no, you don't. Like, it doesn't feel good, but at the end of the day, just try and recoup as much as you can. Like, I got rid of this one fairly quickly, even though it was produced really, really well. I mean, Elf Creek Games, they make high quality stuff, but this one, they just kind of needed to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, because the theme is great. Like the theme was cool. The theme was exciing. I think
in terms of selling stuff.
Reason.
Like that's all you are really doing. Yeah, they did a really cool theme around it, but yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. It's like you do a bunch of work, you do all this setup, and you play through it really to just put items on your cart and go sell it. And the way that the scoring track, like the way you scored was super jank. Because you were trying to become like famous as well as rich. So it was kind of like whichever one you did the worst, that was your final score.
Yeah, it was the lowest one. Yeah.
I just remembered that. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's fucking dumb. Why would that make any sense? Like oh man, that guy's super rich, but I guess no one really. I mean, I guess that does make sense. Never mind.
Well,
Because there's a lot of
and
rich people that people hate.
yeah, and the games just took a long time too. They were not short games either, so it just kind of, I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty bummed about this one not turning out to be decent and stuff, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's my
All
number
right.
one.
Well, sweet. Well, that is our top 5 disappointing games of 2022. Again, I want to reiterate, if you made it this far, if you love these games, if these are the best games you've ever played, that's fantastic. Very happy for you. You are more than welcome to enjoy whatever games that you enjoy. These are just the ones that fell kind of flat for us, and therefore maybe they fell flat for you as well. So you have someone who agrees with you. With that being said, let us know what games were disappointing for you in 2022. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.